Hi, my name is Paul and welcome to a session on creating organisation charts in Microsoft Visio. To create an organisation chart in Visio, once you're actually inside the product, the best thing to do is to actually use a template that Visio provides. So by going to the File menu, coming down to New, we can see that we get various templates here. Now a template really is a drawing page which is set up in a certain orientation perhaps, or with scaling, plus you also get various stencils with this. So when you go into New, one thing you could do, which I find quite useful, is to categorize the templates. So down here, look, we've got different categories from business, engineering, general, etc. And in the business category, you will find two templates for organization charts. We have the organization chart wizard, which I'll demonstrate in a further video, and then we've got organization chart here. So I'm going to choose this one, organization chart. You'll notice you're prompted for the units, whether you want metric or US, depending on where you're based. In this case, in the UK, of course, I'm going to go for metric units, create at this point. What this will do is create a blank page for me, a blank drawing page. And you'll notice on the left hand side now coming up, we've got a stencil, one stencil at this point, which is called belt, and it's got various graphics here on it. Here's the drawing page. The drawing page, you'll notice, is set up in landscape. You can always change that, of course, if you wish to do so. And the other thing to notice at the top is that we've got an extra tab here called org chart, which is really useful, of course. So if you were creating organization charts in something like PowerPoint, what you'd have to do, of course, is draw you might use smart art, or you might draw the shapes yourself and then copy and paste them, and this can take quite a long time, especially when it comes to aligning things and getting things straight. The whole idea of Visio then, in this instance, is that we can actually just drag and drop. So if I take the executive belt and just drag and drop it here at the top and let go, you'll notice automatically it drops in the executive at the top. Now let's imagine I want 3 managers underneath this executive. If I take the first manager, what you do is you drop the manager on top of the executive. When I do that, you'll notice it creates a connector here between the executive and the manager. So what I could then do for the next 2 managers is just simply drag and drop. So here's another manager underneath, and then again drag and drop on top of the executive to get the 3rd manager. Easy, very easy to do, and very quick, of course. Now, in the same vein, if I wanted to have a position underneath this manager, I could take the position graphic from the stencil here and drag and drop it on top of this manager, and automatically we can see it links it into this manager here. Now we could keep doing this, say there was 4 positions that we wanted to report into this manager, but over here on the left hand side, along with the other graphics, you'll notice this option for multiple shapes. If I take the multiple shapes option and drag and drop on top of this middle manager here, when I let go, it prompts me to say how many of a particular shape do I want underneath this manager in this case. So I might say, okay, I want 4 positions. If I click OK, you'll notice that I get 4 positions directly underneath this particular manager. So you don't even have to drag 4 positions in. You can just drag the multiple shapes option over to here and drop it in. You have got an option here for 3 positions, but I just find multiple shapes easier because I can swap things around and change things. Now it might be the case that when looking at this, the design of it, let's come to, you might want to change the design of this. And at the top, you'll notice there's an option here called Shapes on the ribbon. And the very first one is Belt, which is the one that we're in. This is followed by Notch, then by Pip, and then I think the runoff that the things are called after this, it's Shapetacular. So by clicking on a particular option here, this will affect the whole of the organization chart. So if I click on Notch, which is the one I prefer because it seems to give me a little bit more space on a drawing page, you can see that the style of this changes to Notch. If I click on Pip, it applies that style to the whole of the diagram and changes it to Pip, although then it goes off the drawing page. If I click again on Notch, then it's back to the one that I particularly like. Now, once you set up a style, you may want to change the leg style here of this. So you'll notice I've selected the superior shape, so to speak, the manager here, and on the far left hand side of the ribbon on the organization tab we have layout. By clicking on layout here, look, I can change the leg style underneath that particular manager. So it might be that I want it to be on the left, or it might be I want it to be centered right. Of course, you would then need to do the legs next door in a similar vein to get the layout nice and looking. So the idea of this with the layout is you select the superior shape, and then everything else underneath this takes on the relevant leg styles, whether it's side by side or vertical or horizontal, whichever one you want. Coming to the next group here for a second, we've got a range. You'll notice at the top there's a plus and a minus. If we click on the plus, it will increase the spacing between the objects on the drawing page. If we click on the minus, it will decrease the spacing between them. If I was to type in a name here at the bottom for a second, and we'll put a title in for Zalal. And I also want to actually name the manager for this group. One of the other reasons for I like this particular style of the notch is that the very first style actually puts the title above the name rather than the other way around. So I like to see the name first, then the title. If you use the first option, which was, I keep forgetting, the belt style, it will put these two options the other way around. Now, by selecting Zalal, what I was going to come to here is the option underneath spacing, which is move. Now it looks like this says move left and right, of course, but when you hover, you'll notice it says also move down or move up. So by clicking up, you'll notice I can move Zalal up the leg, so to speak, get to the top. She won't move any further, unfortunately, but if I move her down, I can move her down the leg. If I select Kevin, we can move the whole leg to the left or to the right by using the move option. And then the option underneath this, by selecting the leg with the 4 positions underneath, we've got show or hide the subordinates. By clicking on this, you'll notice it hides the subordinates at this point. You can see here, you know that there's some hidden subordinates here because of this little icon here in the bottom right hand corner. If I click show hide again, this brings back the subordinates. So this is a click. And then finally in the bottom right hand corner we've got the dialog box launcher, which gives you a little bit more leeway over the spacing. By clicking on this, you can actually set the spacing for the page that you're on, for selected shapes, for all pages. So you'll notice you've got closer and further, but if you come to custom, you can actually physically set the amount of spacing vertically between the different objects on the page. In a similar vein, on the shapes group, we have the height and the width. Of course, by clicking on the plus here, it makes that particular object bigger. If I deselect and click on the plus, so I've got nothing selected, when I click on the plus, you'll notice all the objects get a bit bigger or smaller in size. And in a similar vein, we can widen the objects or make them a bit slimmer, so to speak. Again, in the bottom right hand corner, display options, if I click here, you can see we can physically set the width and the height of those shapes. So we've seen how to move these around. Just to say, you can also, you can select the objects. You can use the nudge, the arrow keys on the keyboard to nudge things yourself. So you don't have to stay with the actual settings that are here, and you can use all the other options like alignment and distribution on these objects as normal. These lines here are actually connectors. You can disconnect and reconnect if you wish to do so. Another option you might have noticed up here is that we can actually also, when you select the actual, if I can select Kevin here, is that you can actually insert a picture. So you can put pictures actually into the objects. Now I've got to find some pictures. So here, this is a picture. We could put a picture inside of here, so you can see, hopefully that'd be a picture of a person. We can put a picture actually inside the object. Once you select the object here, we can delete the picture or change the picture, but also just hide it as well, if you wish to do so. I'll take that one out, so I'll delete it. Other options inside of Visio then. Now, often people might run out of space on a particular page, and they decide that perhaps they want this leg here because we've run out of space to be on a different page. When you right click on an object, you can see at this point that we've got this option, create synchronized copy here. You've also got the similar option here to synchronize, look, create synchronized copy. If I click on create synchronized copy, what this does is it says, okay, let's create a new page at this point. If I click OK, you can see down in the bottom left hand corner here, you'll now see, look, that we've now got two pages. Page 1, there's page 1, still with the subordinates on it and the manager, and here's page 2 at the same time. So this created a copy from one page to the other page. So what I could do here is, if I named the pages by double clicking on the tabs, look, I could call this the main, I could call this sub. Now, one of the things we could do on the main page, as we saw earlier, we could show and hide the subordinates underneath Kevin. If there wasn't enough room, I could then, from this particular object, I could create a link, of course. So by going to the Insert tab, here we have links. I could link not to an address, the address box. This looks a bit different from normal Microsoft products. This allows us to link, of course, to the internet or to a local file, but underneath we've got subaddress. So by clicking on this, I can browse and then choose a particular page, in this case the second page, the sub. Click OK. Can put a description in. Clicking OK. Now you notice when I hover on this object now, we've got the hyperlink symbol, as it says, control and click, or you can right click on the object, and down here we have the link on the secondary menu, so to speak. So if I say go to second page, I use that hyperlink look, we can see it jumps through to the second page. So there we go, jumps through to the second page. Of course we might need to create a hyperlink to go back the other way, but that's one of the options. So a hyperlink doesn't really act like a hyperlink as it would on a web page, as in all Microsoft products. Holding the control key down changes it to the hand, clicking once jumps through to that second page. Just thinking about it, there's a couple of more options here, just to mention them while we're here. So if I come back to the org chart tab and just show and hide the subordinates, another option I forgot to mention is that when you right click, we can come here to change position type and actually change any of the objects to something else. So here we are, this is now a vacancy, so it does change the way it looks on the drawing page, or we could change this back to position again. So very easy to build an organization chart and to add various different levels within it. Now sometimes what you might find is that when you add, for example, let's add an admin person, an assistant in. So let's say this assistant reports into the manager at the top. What you'll see when I let go is it puts the assistant directly underneath like this. Now somebody might say at this point, well, in our organization we always have our assistant over here on the right hand side, and it's always a certain dashed line, or so in this case, if you can just rearrange it as you see fit, because this line itself is still a connector, as I mentioned earlier. So as I drag it across, if I click once here, I can see that we've got the glue at either end and the connection point. I could then take this point and drag it to here. I can take this end of the connection point, of course, and drag it to the connection point here to glue it. It might be that I want to change the style of that, so I could come back to the Home tab. I could come to the line effects, and then I might change it to a dashed line instead of being a solid line. So you can literally disconnect and reconnect as you see fit. And another option that often comes up when building organization charts is that you might say that one person here reports into two different managers. Now the temptation is perhaps to come to the Home tab, come to the Tools group and to the Connector tool, and to actually draw a connection point from here, saying, okay, this person reports into this manager here. When I let go, you'll notice it comes up with this box, which is a little bit when we drag and drop sometimes. If I click OK though, unfortunately the connector here disappears, so we're left with one, and if I draw this one in, this one will disappear. So this is not really the way forward when it comes to actually wanting this person to report into two different managers. In essence, this is over here on the stencil, this is what these two last options in the stencil are for. So you've got a dotted line report or a direct additional manager. So if you drag this on, you can see it's a connector. All I do is take this point, drag it towards the bottom of the manager, we get the connection point, it glues, and then take this end and connect it to here. And now we can see that we can connect this person into two managers. We could change the style of that again if we wanted to, but that's how we can have one person reporting into two other people. So don't use the connector tool, you're going to get into a bit of hot water with that. Use the stencil and the direct additional option here, or the dotted line, to add extra ones in. The last thing to mention is just about the drawing page itself, which is a general thing. You have to be a little bit careful with all drawing pages when you set them up in Visio. If I was to take a vacancy notch, for example, here, and drag it on towards the edge of the page, you'll notice that the drawing page has actually changed in size. Now this isn't the printed page, this is the drawing page, and this is one of the things that Visio often automatically does when you choose a template. If I delete this object now, we can see the drawing page goes back. So sometimes if I definitely want to stay on a page of A4, what I'll do is come to the design tab here, and you can see within the page setup group here, you'll notice auto size is pressed in. What this is about then is that the drawing page size, not the page size, but the drawing page size will change automatically, as we've just seen. So one of the things to do if you don't want that to happen is to turn off auto size, and then you'll notice that when you drag objects on, like the vacancy notch again, that is, it doesn't increase the page size, it stays within the A4 page. So thanks very much. I hope you've enjoyed this little session how to create a quick organization chart inside of Visio. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me today, and to find out more about the IT Training Surgery, navigate to www.theittrainingsurgery.com. Let us help you learn what you need to know when you need it.